If Saad had known that a simple mistake would change her life forever, she would have been more careful. But life never gives warnings before dropping heavy burdens on people. She had been Chief Alyamid Bakir's maid for 4 years. She cleaned his mansion, prepared his meals, and took care of him like he was her own father. He wasn't like other rich men she had heard about. He was kind to her. He didn't shout or throw things when he was angry. He never treated her like a servant, and sometimes, when he sat in his big leather chair with a tired sigh, he would look at her and say, "Saad, you're the only one who truly cares for me." But caring for him was what led to the biggest mistake of her life. It happened late in the evening. Chief Alyamid had been feeling restless all day. His body was weak, and his head ached. When it was time for his medication, Saad went to his bedside drawer, just as she had done 100 times before. The small white tablets sat in their container. She poured out 2 pills into her palm, but her hands trembled. She was tired from working all day. She didn't notice that she had picked out 4 pills instead of 2. She carried them over to him with a cup of water. Chief Alyamid, trusting her completely, swallowed them without question. He gave her a weak smile and closed his eyes. It wasn't until she was cleaning up the bedside table that she saw the extra pills lying near the bottle. Her heart dropped. She counted the remaining pills, then counted them again. She had given him too much. Panic shot through her chest. She turned sharply to the bed. "Sir? Sir, how do you feel?" Chief Alyamid opened his eyes slightly. His face looked paler than before. His breathing had slowed. "I feel tired," he said softly. Tears welled in Saada's eyes. She had poisoned him. She grabbed her phone with shaking hands. "I'll call the doctor. Please just hold on, sir." But then, something strange happened. Chief Alyamid smiled, not a pained smile. A real, warm smile. "No, Saad," he whispered. "Don't call anyone." Saad froze. "But sir..." He lifted a weak hand and gestured for her to sit beside him. She hesitated, then slowly sank onto the bed. "I'm an old man," he said, his voice calm. "I have lived my life. I have built an empire. I have seen things. But in the end, Saad, the only person who has truly been there for me is you." Tears slipped down Saada's cheeks. "Please, sir, don't say that. Let me call the doctor." He shook his head. "If you call them, what do you think will happen?" She swallowed hard. She knew exactly what would happen. The doctors would ask what he took. They would realize she had overdosed him. The news would spread. The children who had abandoned him would come back, not to mourn, but to punish her. She could already hear Kunal's voice in her head. "You killed our father. You did this on purpose." Chief Alyamid reached out and took her hand. His grip was weak, but his eyes were steady. "Saad, I don't want my last moments to be filled with noise and fake tears." She shook her head. "Please, sir. Please." He gave her another small smile. "Stay with me." Saad stayed. She held his hand as his breathing slowed even more. She whispered prayers. She cried silently. Then, just before his eyes closed for the last time, he murmured something that shook her to her core. "I'm giving it all to you, Saad." And then he was gone. The next morning, the house was filled with people. Servants whispered in corners. Neighbors gathered at the gate. The news had spread fast. The great Chief Alyamid Bakir was dead. His children arrived that afternoon. They stepped out of their expensive cars with unreadable expressions. Kunal, the eldest, was tall and broad-shouldered, wearing dark sunglasses even though there was no sun. He was the loudest of them all. Ao, the second son, was quieter but just as cold. He had always been more interested in businesses than family. Kemi, the youngest, looked genuinely sad, but she said nothing. She barely spoke at all. They greeted the visitors with polite nods and sat quietly in the living room as the lawyer prepared to read the will. They didn't speak to Saad. It was as if she didn't exist. Then the lawyer entered. A serious man with sharp glasses and a neatly pressed suit. He carried a brown envelope and cleared his throat. "We will now read the last will and testament of Chief Alyamid Bakir." The room fell silent. The will started with small things. Some donations to charity. a few properties here and there. The children didn't react. They sat straight, waiting for the part that mattered. Then the lawyer reached the final section. To my first son, Kunal Bakare, I leave a sum of 10 million naira. Kunal frowned. He removed his sunglasses. Excuse me? The lawyer continued. To my second son, Ao Bakare, I leave my shares in Bakare Enterprises, a total of 15%. Ao's expression darkened. 15%? That's it. The lawyer did not stop. To my daughter, Kemi Bakare, I leave the family's vacation home in Abuja and a trust fund of 5 million naira. Kemi blinked in surprise. She didn't say anything. And then the final words. The remainder of my estate, including my mansion, my savings, my businesses, and all other assets, I leave to Saad Adeyemi. The room exploded. What? Kunal jumped from his chair. What did you just say? Ao slammed his fist on the table. This must be a joke. Who is Saad Adeyemi? The lawyer remained calm. Saad Adeyemi is your father's maid. Kunal turned sharply. For the first time, he looked at Saad, his eyes burned with rage. You, he hissed. You did this. Saada's heart pounded. She couldn't move. She couldn't breathe. Ao pointed a shaking finger at her. You must have tricked him. Maybe you fed him lies. Maybe you poisoned him. Poisoned? Saada's blood ran cold. She opened her mouth to protest, but her voice wouldn't come out. Kunal turned to the lawyer. This is fraud. I don't accept it. The lawyer sighed. It is not fraud. Your father signed this will 2 days before he passed. Kunal's hands clenched into fists. Then she forced him. She made him do it. Kemi, who had been silent all along, finally spoke. Her voice was soft but clear. Did she? Everyone turned to her. Kunal's anger deepened. Of course she did. Do you think our father would willingly give everything to his maid? Kemi looked at Saad, her expression unreadable. I don't know, she said, but I do know that we need to find out the truth. Kunal's voice was firm. Then we will. And when we do, she will regret this. Saad felt a chill crawl down her spine. She had inherited a billionaire's fortune. But she had also inherited a war, ***. Saada's hands wouldn't stop shaking. She sat frozen in the lawyer's office, her mind spinning. The walls felt like they were closing in, the air thick with the weight of Kunal's burning rage. Ao was breathing hard, his fists clenching and unclenching. Kemi, the only one who hadn't completely lost her temper, was staring at Saad, her face unreadable. Nobody spoke for a few seconds. Then, like a thunderclap, Kunal slammed his hand against the table. This is nonsense. His voice roared through the room. There is no way our father would leave everything to a maid. No way. The lawyer, who had clearly seen enough family fights in his career, simply adjusted his glasses and remained calm. I understand this is difficult, Mr. Bakare, but this was your father's final wish. The will was signed, stamped, and witnessed. Ao turned sharply to Saad. What did you do? His voice was low, dangerous. What spell did you cast on him? Saad finally found her voice, though it trembled. I didn't do anything. Kunal let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Oh, you didn't do anything? You're telling me that our father, woke up one morning and decided to hand his entire fortune to his maid. The way he said maid made Saada's stomach tighten, like she was dirt beneath his shoe. Ao took a step closer, his voice tight with suspicion. How long have you been planning this? How long have you been waiting for him to die so you could take everything? Saada's chest tightened. I never wanted this. Kunal's eyes flared. Liar! Enough! Kemi's voice cut through the tension like a knife. Everyone turned to her. She was still sitting calmly, hands folded in her lap. Her face wasn't angry like her brother's, but there was something sharp in her gaze. Saad, she said carefully, did our father ever tell you he was changing his will? Saad shook her head quickly. No, I didn't even know until now. Kunal scoffed. So you expect us to believe that you just woke up today and magically became a billionaire? Saad felt tears stinging her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. I loved your father. I took care of him when nobody else did. I didn't ask for this. Eo's jaw tightened. If you really loved him, you would return what doesn't belong to you. Silence filled the room. The lawyer finally spoke. If Ms. Adeyemi wishes to decline the inheritance, she may do so legally. All eyes turned back to Saad. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears. Every part of her wanted to say yes, to walk away from this nightmare. But then she remembered Chief Alyamid's last words. I'm giving it all to you, Saad. He had made this decision for a reason. Would she really throw it away because his children hated it? Her fingers dug into the fabric of her dress as she took a shaky breath. I won't return it. Kunnal's face twisted in fury. Then we'll make you. The Bakar mansion was no longer the peaceful home Saad had once known. The moment the will was read, everything changed. The staff who once smiled at her now whispered behind her back. The drivers, the cooks, the cleaners. None of them looked her in the eye anymore. And then there was Kunnal. He stormed into the mansion that evening like a raging bull, shoving past the security guard who tried to stop him. Eo was right behind him, quieter but just as dangerous. Saad had barely stepped into the living room when Kunnal grabbed a vase from a side table and smashed it against the floor. Get out of my father's house, he bellowed. Saad flinched, but she didn't move. This was his house. And now it's mine. Kunnal's hands curled into fists. Over my dead body. Eo stepped forward, his tone icy. Listen to me carefully, Saad. You are not part of this family. You don't belong here. And we will not let you steal what's ours. Saada's chest rose and fell rapidly. I didn't steal anything. He left it to me. Kunnal took a slow, dangerous step closer. Then you must have done something to make him. Saada's stomach twisted. Eo's voice was low but sharp. We know he didn't just wake up one morning and decide this. Something happened. And we're gonna find out what. Saad forced herself to stand tall. I have nothing to hide. Kunnal's smirk was chilling. We'll see about that. The next morning, the storm only got worse. The headlines were everywhere. Billionaire's fortune goes to Maid. Children left with scraps. Shock in the Bakar family. Who is Saad Adeyemi? Billionaire's sons cry foul play? Was their father manipulated? Saad couldn't breathe as she read the words. The newspaper felt heavy in her hands. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Numbers she didn't recognize. Journalists, reporters, even strangers. The whispers in the mansion had turned into open stares. She could feel them watching her, judging her. By the afternoon, the gate was surrounded. News vans, cameras, people holding microphones shouting her name. She tried to stay inside, tried to block it all out. But then the door flew open, and Kunnal was standing there with a piece of paper in his hand. We're contesting the will. Saad blinked. What? Eo walked in behind him, arms crossed. We're taking this to court. We don't believe that will is real. Saada's breath hitched. It is real. Your father signed it. Kunnal tossed the paper onto the coffee table. Then we'll prove that you forced him to. Saad swallowed hard. You can't just. Watch us. The next moment they turned and walked out. Saada's hands trembled as she picked up the paper. It was an official legal notice. She wasn't just dealing with their hatred anymore. Now she was going to court. By evening, the house felt colder, quieter. The mansion had always been big, but now it felt empty. Saad sat alone in the living room, staring at the floor. Her head ached from all the shouting, from the newspapers, from the fear curling in her chest. Then, suddenly, there was a soft knock on the door. She turned. It wasn't a servant. It wasn't a journalist. It was Kemi. Saad stiffened. What do you want? Kemi hesitated, then stepped inside. Unlike her brothers, she didn't look furious. She looked conflicted. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Kemi asked, Did you do it? Saada's throat tightened. Do what? Kemi's voice was quiet. Did you trick him? Saada's eyes burned. No. Kemi studied her for a long moment. Then, with a sigh, she sat down across from her. I don't know what to believe, she admitted. But I do know one thing. Saad swallowed. What? Kemi's eyes darkened. My brothers won't stop. They'll destroy you if they can. Sada's heart pounded. Kemi stood up. You need to be ready. And then, without another word, she walked away. Sad sat frozen. The storm wasn't over. It was just beginning. Sad barely slept that night. Even with the doors locked and the curtains drawn, she felt exposed. The weight of what was happening crushed her chest like a heavy stone. Kunal and Ao had made their move. They were dragging her to court. But even worse than that was Kemi's warning. My brothers won't stop. They'll destroy you if they can. The words echoed in her head, over and over. By morning, she forced herself out of bed and stepped into the hallway. The mansion that had once felt warm now felt like a prison. The staff barely spoke to her. Some of them whispered when they thought she wasn't listening. Others simply looked away, pretending she didn't exist. She felt alone, but she couldn't afford to break down now. She had to be strong. The first attack came before noon. Saad was in the living room when her phone rang. The number was unknown, but after everything that had happened, she had stopped ignoring calls. She picked up. Is this Saad Adeyemi? A deep voice asked. Her fingers tightened around the phone. Who is this? This is Inspector Danjuma from the Lagos State Police. We need you to come down to the station for questioning regarding Chief Alyamide Bakir's death. Sada's breath caught in her throat. What? We've received a report suggesting that his death may not have been natural. You are required to come in for questioning immediately. The line went dead. Saad stood frozen. Her head spun. A report? What report? ***. Then, like a punch to the stomach, the realization hit her. Kunal and Ao. They had gone to the police. They were trying to frame her. The police station was cold. Too cold. Saad sat in a small interrogation room, hands clenched together. Across from her, Inspector Danjuma studied her with sharp eyes. He had the look of a man who had seen too much, his face lined with age and experience. On the table between them was a thin file. He hadn't opened it yet, but Saad could feel the weight of it like a heavy shadow. Finally, he spoke. You were the last person to see Chief Alyamide alive, correct? Saad nodded. Yes. And you administered his medication on the night he passed? Her throat was dry. Yes. Inspector Danjuma leaned forward slightly. How many pills did you give him? Sada's heart slammed against her ribs. She could feel the trap being set. 2, she lied. Danjuma didn't blink. Are you sure? Saad forced herself to stay calm. Yes. There was a long silence. Then, slowly, the inspector opened the file. He pulled out a document and slid it across the table. According to this, he said, your employer was given an overdose of his sleeping pills. 4 pills instead of 2. Sada's stomach dropped. She stared at the paper, her vision blurring. They knew. Inspector Danjuma watched her carefully. Care to explain? Saad opened her mouth, but no words came out. What was she supposed to say? That it was an accident? That she had been tired, and her hands had slipped? That she had been so scared she hadn't called the doctor because Chief Alyamide had begged her not to? Would they believe her? Or would they see exactly what Kunal and Ao wanted them to see? An ambitious maid who had poisoned her employer for his fortune? Miss Adeyemi? Danjuma prompted. Saad swallowed hard. The door suddenly opened. A new voice filled the room. She's not answering any more questions. Saad turned sharply. It was her lawyer. Mr. Lawal, a small, sharp-eyed man in his 50s, stepped inside with a calm but firm expression. He placed his briefcase on the table and gave Danjuma a polite nod. My client will only speak in the presence of legal representation. I trust you understand that, Inspector? Danjuma sighed but nodded. Of course. Mr. Lawal turned to Saad. We're leaving. Saad didn't need to be told twice. She stood quickly, her legs trembling. As they walked out, she could feel the eyes of the officers following her. Watching. Waiting. The walls of the police station seemed to whisper the same thing. She's guilty. She's hiding something. She killed him. Back at the mansion, Mr. Lawal didn't waste any time. You need to tell me the truth, he said the moment they stepped into the study. Did you overdose him? Sada's hands shook as she sat down. It was an accident, Mr. Lawal's gaze didn't waver. Did he ask you not to call the doctor? Tears welled in her eyes. Yes, he sighed. And you listened. Saad buried her face in her hands. What was I supposed to do? He said he didn't want a doctor. He told me not to. Her voice broke. I didn't mean to hurt him. I swear. Mr. Lawal exhaled, rubbing his temples. The police will come back, Saad. You need to be ready. What do I do? She whispered. He looked at her for a long moment. Then his voice was quiet but firm. You fight. The next evening, the second attack came. Saad was sitting in the study when her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. She opened it and froze. It was a photo of Chief Alyamid's body. Her breath hitched. The picture was grainy, but she recognized it instantly. It was taken the night he died, before the body was moved. Another message followed. You did this. Sada's hands trembled. Then another text. Tell the truth, or we will expose you. She gasped, her heart racing. Who was this? The police? The press? Colonel? Oh? Asterisk asterisk. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. She jumped, her pulse hammering. Saad. It was Kemi's voice. She swallowed hard and slowly opened the door. Kemi stepped inside, her face tight. She shut the door behind her and turned to Saad. We need to talk. Sada's voice was barely a whisper. Kemi, did you see the news? Kemi cut in. Sada's stomach twisted. What? Kemi pulled out her phone, tapped on the screen, and turned it toward her. A headline glared at Saad in bold letters. Billionaire's death. New evidence suggests poisoning. Maid under investigation. Sada's breath left her in a sharp gasp. No. Kemi's voice was flat. Colonel paid someone to fake a toxicology report. Sada's heart stopped. What? Kemi nodded grimly. They're setting you up, Saad. They won't stop until you're in prison. Sada's legs gave out. She sank onto the chair, her head spinning. What do I do? She whispered. Kemi hesitated. Then, slowly, she knelt in front of her. Tell me the truth. Sada's eyes burned with tears. I already did. Kemi's gaze didn't leave hers. Then we have to prove it. Saad stared at her, heart pounding. Was Kemi on her side? Or was this just another trap? Saad felt like the walls of the mansion were closing in on her. She had spent years walking these halls, cleaning these floors, setting the dining table and serving meals. The house had once felt like a place of work. Then, for a brief moment it had felt like a home. Now it felt like a trap. Her body still trembled from the news Kemi had shown her. A fake toxicology report. A setup. Colonel and Ao were not just trying to take the inheritance back. They wanted her gone. And yet, here Kemi was, looking her in the eye, saying she wanted the truth. Saad didn't know if she could trust her. She had spent the last few days watching her world fall apart. Every time she thought things couldn't get worse, something else happened. The will, the lawsuit, the police, the threatening text, the fake report. Now, Kemi was standing in front of her, claiming to believe her. But did she really? Or was this just another trap? Sada's throat was dry. Why are you here, Kemi? Kemi sat on the chair across from her. She crossed her arms. I told you. I want the truth. Saad shook her head. I already told you everything. Kemi sighed. I know. But Saad, you need to understand something. Saad narrowed her eyes. Understand what? Kemi leaned forward. My brothers will do anything to destroy you. They don't care if you go to jail. They don't care if the police arrest you. They just want the money back. Sada's stomach twisted. She already knew that. She had seen it in their eyes. Colonel's anger. Ao's coldness. They weren't fighting for justice. They were fighting for revenge. Sada's voice was weak. And what about you? Kemi didn't answer right away. She looked down at her hands. For a moment, she was quiet. Then finally she spoke. I just want to know what really happened. Saad swallowed. Her fingers clenched against her dress. I told you. I made a mistake. I gave him too many pills. He didn't want me to call the doctor. Kemi studied her. And you're sure? You're sure there was no foul play? Saad frowned. What do you mean? Kemi leaned back. I mean, what if someone else gave him something? What if the overdose wasn't the only reason he died? Saada's eyes widened. You think someone poisoned him? Kemi didn't answer, but the look in her eyes was clear. For the first time, Saad felt something different beneath the fear in her chest. Possibility. What if Chief Alumide's death wasn't only her mistake? What if someone else had wanted him dead? That night, Saad barely slept. Kemi's words kept circling in her head. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. Kunal and Ao had faked a toxicology report. That much was clear. But what if there had been a real one? What if Chief Alumide had been poisoned? What if the overdose had only sped up what was already happening? By morning, she had made up her mind. She needed answers, and she was going to find them. Her first stop was the hospital. She knew it was risky, walking into the same place where the police had taken Chief Alumide's body for examination. But she didn't have a choice. She had to know if anyone had seen the real report. She walked up to the reception desk and forced a polite smile. Good morning. The nurse behind the counter barely looked at her. Good morning. How can I help you? Saad took a deep breath. I'm looking for the doctor who examined Chief Alumide Bakir. The nurse's eyes flickered with recognition. She straightened slightly. Are you a family member? Saad hesitated. I was close to him. The nurse frowned. I'm sorry, but that information is confidential. Saada's stomach twisted. Please, I just need to know something. The nurse sighed. I can't help you. Saada's hands clenched. She couldn't give up now. She turned slightly, scanning the area. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw something. A young doctor was walking past the desk, holding a file. He looked about 30, with tired eyes and a distracted expression. Dr. Martins. Saad recognized him immediately. He had been the one who spoke to the police after Chief Alumide's death. She didn't think. She just acted. She stepped in front of him. Dr. Martins? He blinked in surprise. Yes. Saad swallowed hard. I need to talk to you. Please. He frowned. I'm sorry, who are you? She hesitated. Then she said it. I was Chief Alumide Bakir's maid. The doctor's eyes flickered with something, recognition, maybe even sympathy. But his face remained unreadable. I'm sorry for your loss, he said carefully. But I really can't talk about. Was there another toxicology report? Saad cut in. Dr. Martin stiffened. Saad saw it immediately, the flash of hesitation in his eyes. Her heart pounded. Please, I need to know the truth. For a long moment, the doctor just stood there. Then, with a sigh, he glanced around before lowering his voice. Follow me. Dr. Martins led her to a quiet hallway. Saada's breath was shaky. Her fingers felt ice cold. Finally, the doctor turned to her. There was a real toxicology report. Her heart stopped. What did it say? Dr. Martins hesitated. I can't give you the full details. But, he exhaled. There were traces of something in his system. Something that wasn't part of his prescribed medication. Saada's blood ran cold. Poison? She whispered. Dr. Martins didn't answer. But his silence was enough. Saad staggered back. Her breath came out in shaky gasps. He had been poisoned. Her mistake had killed him faster. But someone had already been killing him slowly. And now she had to find out who. When Saad got back to the mansion, Kemi was waiting. Saad didn't waste time. She walked straight up to her. You were right. Kemi's eyes narrowed. About what? Saada's hands shook. He was poisoned. Kemi inhaled sharply. What? Saad nodded. I went to the hospital. I spoke to the doctor. They found something in his system. Something that wasn't supposed to be there. Kemi's face darkened. Then someone wanted him dead. Saada's voice was quiet. And we both know who had the most to gain. Kemi swallowed. Kunal and Ao. Saada's heart pounded. But we need proof. Kemi nodded slowly. Then we find it. For the first time, Saad felt something other than fear. She felt determined. Because now, this wasn't just about protecting her name. This was about finding the real murderer. And she was going to make sure they paid. Saad stood in front of the mansion's wide windows, staring out at the massive gates. The reporters were still there. Their cameras flashed every few seconds, desperate to capture a glimpse of the maid who stole a billionaire's fortune. But Saad was no longer afraid of the cameras. She had bigger problems. Chief Al-Yamid had been poisoned. Someone had wanted him dead long before she made that terrible mistake with his pills. And now the Real killers were trying to put the blame on her. She turned away from the window and faced Kemi. "We need proof. If we don't find it, I'll go to jail for something I didn't do." Kemi crossed her arms. "And even if you don't go to jail, my brothers will take everything from you. They'll win in court if we don't fight back." Saada's hands clenched into fists. "Then let's fight." The next morning, Saad sat in her lawyer's office. Mr. Lawal adjusted his glasses and sighed. "Kunal and Ao have filed 2 cases against you." Saada's heart pounded. "2?" He nodded. "One is to contest the will. They're claiming Chief Al-Yamid wasn't in his right mind when he wrote it." Saad swallowed hard. "And the second?" Mr. Lawal leaned forward. "They're accusing you of foul play. They claim you manipulated him into changing the will, and they're hinting at murder." Saada's stomach twisted. "They have no proof." Mr. Lawal's lips tightened. "They don't need proof, Saad. They just need doubt. If the judge believes there's even a chance that you tricked Chief Al-Yamid, they'll throw out the will." Saada's fingers dug into her lap. "So what do we do?" Mr. Lawal exhaled. "We fight back. We prove that Chief Al-Yamid was of sound mind when he wrote that will. And we prove that someone else had a reason to kill him." Saad and Kemi exchanged a look. They knew exactly who had a reason, but knowing and proving it were 2 different things. The first court hearing was brutal. Kunal and Ao walked in like they owned the place. They wore expensive suits and had a team of lawyers behind them. The moment they sat down, Kunal smirked at Saad, his expression full of confidence. He thought he had already won. The judge, an older man with sharp eyes, banged his gavel. "This court is now in session." Kunal's lawyer, a tall man with a deep voice, was the first to speak. "My clients believe that Chief Al-Yamid Bakr was not in a stable mental condition when he changed his will. We have witnesses who can confirm his health was declining." Saada's stomach twisted. It was a lie. Chief Al-Yamid had been perfectly fine before he died. But Kunal and Ao had money. They had power. And worst of all, they had people willing to lie for them. Mr. Lawal stood up. "Your Honor, we have evidence that Chief Al-Yamid was in good health when he changed his will. We have legal documents, medical reports, and even security footage from his study, showing him signing the will willingly." The judge nodded. "We will review the evidence." Kunal's lawyer didn't look worried. Instead, he turned towards Saad and smiled slightly, as if he knew something she didn't. Then he said, "But there is something else, Your Honor. Something even more serious." Saada's breath caught in her throat. "Here it comes." The lawyer picked up a document and held it up. "This is a toxicology report from Chief Al-Yamid's autopsy. It proves that he had an overdose of his sleeping pills the night he died." Whispers filled the courtroom. Saada's hands turned cold. Kunal's lawyer didn't stop. "The woman who gave him those pills is sitting right here in this courtroom. Her name is Saad Adeyemi." The whispers grew louder. Saada's heart pounded. She could feel the eyes of the entire room burning into her. Kunal's lawyer stepped closer to the judge. "Your Honor, my clients believe that Saad Adeyemi was responsible for their father's death. We request a full investigation into her involvement." The judge looked at Mr. Lawal. "Does the defense have a response?" Mr. Lawal stood up calmly. "Yes, Your Honor. The overdose was an accident. My client admits she made a mistake, but she did not intend to harm Chief Al-Yamid." Kunal's lawyer smirked. "That's convenient, isn't it? A simple mistake that just happens to leave her with billions of naira." Mr. Lawal didn't blink. "Your Honor, we believe there is more to this case than what my learned colleague is presenting. In fact, we have reason to believe that Chief Al-Yamid Bakr was poisoned before the overdose ever occurred." The entire courtroom fell silent. Kunal's smirk disappeared. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Poisoned? That is a serious claim." Mr. Lawal nodded. We request permission to conduct an independent examination of Chief Alyamide's medical records. We believe the truth will reveal itself. The judge thought for a moment, then banged his gavel. Permission granted. Court is adjourned until further evidence is provided. That night, Kunal and Ao stormed into the mansion. Saad was in the living room when they burst through the door. Kunal's face was red with anger. You think you're smart, don't you? Saad stood up. Get out of this house. Ao's voice was cold. You have no proof. There was no poison. Saad took a step closer. Then why are you so afraid? Kunal laughed harshly. Afraid? You're the one who should be afraid, Saad. Because when this is over, you won't have a single naira left. Kemi suddenly appeared from the hallway. What are you two doing here? Ao turned to her. You're on her side now? Kemi folded her arms. I want the truth. Do you? Kunal's jaw tightened. He pointed a finger at Saad. This isn't over. Then, just as quickly as they came, they left. The moment the door slammed behind them, Saad let out a shaky breath. She turned to Kemi. They're scared. Kemi nodded. Yes, and that means we're close. Saad clenched her fists. She wasn't going to lose. Not now. Not when the truth was so close. Because the next time they stepped into that courtroom, she would be ready. Saad couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind spinning. Everything was happening so fast. The court case, the toxicology report, the threats, the whispers. And now, the possibility that Chief Alyamide had been poisoned long before she made her terrible mistake. She turned to her side, hugging a pillow close. Her heart was heavy with fear. But beneath it, there was something else. Determination. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for the truth. And she wasn't going to stop until she found it. The next morning, Kemi and Saad met Mr. Lawal in his office. The lawyer was sitting behind his desk, flipping through a thick file. He looked up when they entered, his face serious. We have a problem, he said. Saada's chest tightened. What now? Mr. Lawal sighed, pushing the file toward them. I spoke to an independent medical examiner. He reviewed Chief Alyamide's records, and he found something. Saada's fingers shook as she picked up the file. Kemi leaned over her shoulder, scanning the documents. Mr. Lawal pointed to a section. There were traces of a slow-acting poison in his bloodstream. Saada's breath hitched. So it's true. Mr. Lawal nodded. Yes, someone was poisoning him long before that night. Kemi let out a slow breath. That means my brothers knew. That's why they rushed to fake a toxicology report. They were trying to cover their tracks. Saada's hands tightened around the file. So what do we do? Mr. Lawal folded his hands. We take this to court. But we need more. We need to prove exactly who did it. Kemi straightened. Then we need to find out who had access to my father's meals, his drinks, everything. Saad nodded. And we need to do it before they find another way to silence me. Back at the mansion, Saad and Kemi started digging. They questioned the staff cautiously, carefully. They couldn't trust everyone. The cook, Madame Fola, frowned when Kemi asked about Chief Alyamide's meals. I only prepared what was ordered, she said. But sometimes, Kunal or Ao would tell me to make something special for their father. They always said he needed more strength. Saada's stomach twisted. Did you ever notice anything strange about the food? Madame Fola hesitated. No. But sometimes the drinks tasted different. Your father always drank a special herbal tea at night. Didn't he? She asked Kemi. Kemi nodded slowly. Yes, he did. Madame Fola rubbed her chin. Well, sometimes I made it, but other times, Kunal would prepare it himself. Saad and Kemi exchanged a look. Kunal had been making the tea, and now Chief Alyamide was dead. That night, Saad sat in the mansion study, flipping through Chief Alyamide's old records. His medical files, business notes, letters, anything that could give her a clue. She was so deep in thought that she didn't hear Kemi enter. I found something, Kemi said. Saad looked up sharply. What is it? Kemi held up a small, empty bottle. This was in Kunal's old room. It had traces of a white powder inside. Saada's heart pounded. Poison? Kemi nodded. I sent it to a lab to be tested. We'll know for sure soon. Saad took a shaky breath. If it's poison, then we have everything we need. Kemi's jaw tightened. Yes, but Kunal and Ao won't go down without a fight. The next day they returned to court. The room was packed. Journalists, spectators, lawyers. Everyone wanted to see how the case would end. Kunal and Ao sat confidently at their table, their lawyer standing tall. Saad felt a shiver run down her spine. They looked too relaxed. They still thought they had already won. The judge banged his gavel. This court is now in session. Mr. Lawal stood up first. Your Honor, we have new evidence that proves Chief Alyamid Bakir was poisoned before his death. A murmur ran through the courtroom. Kunal stiffened. Ao's eyes narrowed. Mr. Lawal continued. We have medical reports confirming that a slow-acting poison was in his system for weeks before he died. And we have reason to believe that someone in his household was responsible. Kunal's lawyer shot up. Objection, Your Honor. This is speculation. The judge held up a hand. We will hear the evidence. Mr. Lawal nodded at Kemi. She stood up, holding the small bottle. This was found in my brother Kunal's room. We sent it to a laboratory for testing, and the results confirm that it contained traces of the same poison found in my father's body. Gasps filled the courtroom. Kunal shot to his feet. That's a lie. The judge banged his gavel. Mr. Bakir, you will remain silent. Ao's face was pale. This is ridiculous. Anyone could have put that bottle in Kunal's room. Kemi's voice was sharp. Did anyone else prepare father's tea at night? Or was it just Kunal? Silence. Kunal clenched his jaw. You're turning against your own family, Kemi? Kemi's eyes were cold. You stopped being my family the moment you tried to frame an innocent woman. The judge turned to Mr. Lawal. Does the prosecution have anything else? Mr. Lawal nodded. Yes, Your Honor. We request that the police conduct an official search of Kunal and Ao's properties. We believe more evidence will be found. Kunal's lawyer's face fell. Because they all knew. It was over. By evening, the police had raided Kunal and Ao's houses. They found more poison bottles, hidden documents, and even messages between Kunal and a supplier who had provided the poison. It was undeniable. Kunal and Ao had been poisoning their father, slowly, carefully. And when Sada's mistake had sped up his death, they had used it to their advantage. 2 days later, the final court hearing took place. The judge looked down at Kunal and Ao. You both stand accused of attempting to murder your father and falsifying evidence to frame Saad Adeyemi. This court finds you guilty. Kunal's face was blank. Ao swallowed hard. Saad let out a shaky breath. It was over. The judge turned to Saad. The will stands as written. The inheritance is legally yours. Sada's hands clenched against her lap. She had won. She had survived. But she didn't feel victorious. She felt tired. That evening, Saad stood in the mansion's garden, watching the sky darken. Kemi joined her. It's over, she said softly. Saad exhaled. Yes, it is. Kemi looked at her. What will you do now? Saad didn't answer right away. She looked at the grand house behind her, at the massive wealth she had fought so hard to keep. She had won. But was this really what she wanted? She turned to Kemi and gave a small, tired smile. I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. And for the first time in weeks, she felt free. Chapter 7, Justice is Served. Saad woke up to silence. For the first time in weeks, the house wasn't filled with shouting, threats, or whispered conversations. There were no footsteps storming through the hallways. No lawyers pacing back and forth. No reporters camped outside, waiting for a scandal. Everything was quiet. And yet, her heart still felt heavy. She had won the case. The judge had ruled in her favor. Kunal and Ao had been exposed for what they had done. But she didn't feel like celebrating. She sat up in bed and exhaled slowly. The mansion, which once felt like home, now felt too big. Too empty. She had spent years taking care of this house. Now it was hers. So why did it feel like she had lost something? By noon, the entire country knew what had happened. Breaking news. Billionaire's sons found guilty of attempted murder. Kunal and Aobakir sentenced. Poison plot uncovered. Saad Adeyemi cleared of all charges. Maid turned heiress speaks out. The media was in a frenzy. People who had once called her a gold digger were now calling her a survivor. But the damage had already been done. Even though the truth was out, some people still whispered. Some still believed the lies. And some would never accept that a maid had inherited everything. Saad sat in the study watching the news on TV. She saw footage of Kunal and Ao being led into a police van. Their faces were pale, their expressions blank. She had thought she would feel relief when this moment came. But all she felt was exhaustion. Kemi walked in holding 2 cups of tea. She set one in front of Saad and sat across from her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Kemi sighed. It's over. Saad picked up the cup and held it between her palms. Yes. Kemi watched her carefully. So, what now? Saad let out a small, humorless laugh. I don't know. Kemi tilted her head. You won, Saad. You have the house, the money, everything. Isn't this what you wanted? Saada's grip tightened around the cup. I never wanted any of this, Kemi. Kemi leaned back. Then what do you want? Saad looked around the room. The grand furniture, the expensive paintings, the shelves filled with books she had never touched. This wasn't her world. She had spent years working in this house, cleaning floors, serving meals, folding clothes. She had thought that inheriting everything would change how she felt, that it would make her belong. But she still felt like a stranger in someone else's life. Saad sighed. I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. Kemi studied her for a moment, then nodded. Whatever you decide, I'll support you. Saad gave her a small smile. Thank you. And for the first time in a long time, she felt like she wasn't alone. That evening, Saad stood at the gates of the mansion. The reporters were gone. The cameras had disappeared. It was just her, staring at the grand house, remembering all the memories trapped inside. She thought about Chief Alyamide, his laughter, his kindness, the way he had trusted her when no one else did. She had spent so much time fighting to prove she deserved this inheritance. But now, standing here, she realized something. She didn't need it. She didn't need a grand house to feel like she mattered. She didn't need billions of naira to prove she was worth something. She had survived. She had fought back. And that was enough. She turned around and walked away from the gate, her heart finally at peace. Because she knew now, this mansion, this fortune, it didn't own her. She was free. Saad stood at the edge of the mansion's garden, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The sky was painted in shades of orange and purple, a peaceful contrast to the storm that had ruled her life for the past few months. The house behind her was silent. No lawyers, no police, no reporters, no shouting. Just silence. She had won the battle. She had proved her innocence. Kunal and Ao were behind bars, and the truth about Chief Alyamide's poisoning was now known to the world. So why did she still feel like she was carrying a weight on her chest? Kemi walked up beside her, arms folded. She stared at the fading sunlight and let out a long breath. It still doesn't feel real. Saad didn't turn to look at her. I know. Kemi shifted, glancing at the house. I grew up here, you know? This place was always filled with noise. Family meetings, business discussions, parties. But now, ***. Saad completed the sentence for her. It's just a house. Kemi nodded slowly. Just a house. Silence stretched between them. Then Kemi sighed. So, have you decided what you're going to do? Saad finally turned to face her. Yes. Kemi's eyes narrowed. And Saad took a deep breath, steadying herself. I'm leaving. Kemi blinked. Leaving? You mean I'm giving up the house, the money, everything? Kemi's mouth fell open slightly. You're serious? Saad nodded. This life, it's not mine, Kemi. I've been trying to fit into it, but I don't belong here. I never did. Kemi frowned. But you fought so hard for it. You proved you deserved it. Saad smiled a little. Maybe, but I didn't fight for money or property. I fought because I wanted the truth. Now I have it. That's enough. Kemi looked away, kicking a small rock with her shoe. So what happens now? You just walk away? Saad inhaled deeply. I'm going to donate most of it. Give back what I can. She turned to Kemi. And I want you to have the house. Kemi's eyes widened. Me? Saad nodded. Yes, this is your family home, Kemi. No matter what happened, this was where you grew up. I don't want it, but I think you should have it. Kemi was silent for a long time. Then she whispered, I don't know what to say. Saad smiled softly. Say you'll take care of it. Say you'll make something good out of it. Kemi exhaled, shaking her head. You really are something else, Saad. Saad laughed. A light, relieved sound. I'm just tired, Kemi. And I think it's time for me to start fresh. Kemi studied her for a moment before nodding. Okay, if that's what you want, then I'll support you. Saad reached out and took her hand, squeezing it lightly. Thank you. The next day, Saad finalized the paperwork. She signed the necessary documents, ensuring the majority of the money went to charity organizations Chief Al-Yamid had supported. A portion was put into a trust for Kemi, and the house was transferred to her name. She had never felt lighter. By evening, she packed a small suitcase. She wasn't taking much, just enough for a fresh start. As she walked through the house one last time, memories flashed before her eyes. Her first day working here, serving Chief Al-Yamid his meals, sitting with him when he felt lonely, the night she made the terrible mistake. The battles, the courtrooms, the accusations, the truth. She exhaled slowly. Goodbye. Then, with a quiet smile, she stepped outside and closed the door behind her. A week later, Saad stood in front of Chief Al-Yamid's grave. The cemetery was quiet, the wind gentle as it rustled the leaves of a nearby tree. She knelt down, brushing her fingers over the gravestone. I hope I did right by you. For the first time in a long time, she felt at peace. She wasn't a maid anymore. She wasn't a billionaire's heir. She was just Saad, and that was enough. As she stood up, she took one last look at the name carved into the stone. Then she turned and walked away, stepping into a future that finally belonged to her.